This video contains flashing lights, scary and creepy content, disturbing violent and graphic images, jump scares, pop-ups and sudden loud noises. Viewer discretion advised.
Creepypastas are essentially internet horror stories passed around on forums and other sites to disturb and frighten readers and viewers. Creepypastas are sometimes supplemented with pictures, audio, or video footage related to the story, typically with gory, distorted, or otherwise shocking content.
We covered a few in our top 20 creepy urban game legends, and so those stories won't be covered again. These, however, are the top 22 non-gaming creepypastas.
Creepybot.
Cleverbot is an interesting website wherein users can talk to a computer program that learns from talking with people. If you look at some of the Turing test results for it, Cleverbot has achieved a 59% human rating. Clearly, it's getting smarter as we talk to it. But over the time it's been out, people have been getting some pretty creepy and in some cases downright disturbing conversations with it. For instance, several people have encountered the entity of Ben, and has given some pretty compelling evidence to say that he was murdered. Also, sometimes the site will say such creepy things like, "I know where you live," "I watch you at night," and to the point of even, "I'm going to murder you."
God's Mouth.
During a mountaineering adventure, a man and a woman entered a mysterious cave, which was labeled God's Mouth. Despite the warnings around the entrance, they explored the lone cave. The man soon feels a warm wall before letting go of the woman's hand and allowing her to disappear further into the cave. He started to call for her and look around, but before he knew it, he was alone and he was trapped, with nothing but 4 walls surrounding him. After a few hours, he began to accept his oncoming mortality. He sat and felt the wall touch his back and began to cry. As his torch lost its last ounce of light, it shone on a painted red hand as the God's Mouth devoured its last prey.
Marina Mordegard Glesgorv. There was a video on YouTube named Marina Mordegard Glesgorv. If you search for this, you will probably find nothing. The few times you will, you'll just see a 20-second video of a man staring at you, expressionless, then grinning for the last 2 seconds. This is actually only part of the video. The full video lasts 2 minutes, and was removed by YouTube after 153 people who viewed the video either slashed marks on their arms, gouged out their eyes, or committed suicide in various ways. The cryptic encryption carved has not yet been deciphered. YouTube periodically put up the first 20 seconds of the video to quell suspicions, so that people wouldn't go looking for the real thing and re-upload it. The video itself was only viewed by one YouTube staff member, who started screaming after about 45 seconds. Ed, Edd, and Eddy, the lost episode.
Rumor has it that episode 34 of the Cartoon Network series Ed, Edd, and Eddy was released 1 week early at 5 a.m. EST. Many people reported that this episode was very disturbing and unlike the usual episodes. The quality of it was mediocre compared to the show's regular standards. It was even reported that a line was running up and down the screen, similar to a degrading VHS tape. It began with Eddy and Ed walking down the street, without Double D. Eddy looked angry, and with red around his irises, and Ed had tears in his eyes, as if something sad had just happened. After that, it changes to a claymation sequence of Double D sleeping in Eddie's bed. This scene was seen from a bird's eye view. The scene changes once again, this time to Jimmy and Sarah at the dentist. Once that ended, it cut to commercials. When the show came back, it showed a hairy Rolf fisting a cow on a loop. And the scene changes once more, this time to Naz, sitting on her couch reading a magazine. Johnny then comes up from under Naz's couch and crawls out on all fours, in a way you would usually see in a cartoon. The odd thing about him was that his eyes appeared to be missing, and all of a sudden, Johnny started swallowing Naz's head, and it changed to the final scene. Double D laying on Eddie's floor for the remainder of the episode.
The Grifter.
The Grifter is an alleged video that was first mentioned somewhere on X image board. Watching it is said to be a soul-rendering experience, far more horrible than anything one could imagine. These images are said to contain some of the screenshots shown in the video. The few that have watched it are said to have been killed in their own homes, with only one thing in common: a strange doll hidden somewhere in the house. There's a message by the end of the video in a constructed internal auxiliary language, Esperanto, and says, "This child is still alive and lives in a local shelter whose name was not given. He never spoke and still is catatonic."
Dead Bart.
During this episode of The Simpsons, the family is on a plane ride, and Bart, as you would guess, is fooling around. But suddenly, he stumbles back and breaks one of the plane windows before being quickly sucked out. After a cutscene, the family is shown crowded around Bart's mangled, bleeding, and horrifically mortified body, laying perfectly still on the ground. In the following act, the family is sitting at the dining room table, crying. After this, the family is shown terribly thin at the graveyard visiting Bart's grave. Soon after, you see lots of tombstones, all of them with names and dates of all the guest stars shown in the entire Simpsons series, some of which had not even been on yet, including Michael Jackson, with the correct date of his actual death, before panning onto silent credits.
Username 666. This video shows what happens when you search for the username 666 on YouTube and then refresh the page a few times. This pasta has actually created a few rumors, one of which is that the original 666 accounts contained a virus that changed all text into sixes. When you search for 666 and refresh the page a couple of times, the background turns hellish, the videos turn creepy, and it is just horrible. If you click on one of the videos, you won't be able to close, back up, pause, or shut down your computer until the video ends. It works, but sometimes contains creepy viruses. If you're willing to take the risk of letting it into your system, that's fine. But it messes up computers bad. Just be careful, because sometimes it affects other pages too. Gateway to the Mind. In 1983, a team of scientists theorized that a human without any of his five senses would be able to perceive the presence of God. They thought the five senses clouded our awareness of eternity, and without them we could contact God. The test was conducted on an elderly man who had nothing left to live for. They cut off all sensory nerve connections to his brain. 2 days later, the man claimed that he could hear his dead wife speaking to him. The scientists found this interesting, but weren't convinced, until he began to name dead relatives of the scientist and their personal information. After a full week of having many dead voices in his head, the man became distressed and on the verge of insanity. He began hurting himself, asking for sedatives so he could fall asleep to stop the voices. Sleeping worked for 3 days, until he began having severe night terrors and hearing the deceased in his dreams. 2 days later, the man could no longer form regular sentences and was classified as insane. He was tied to a table to prevent suicide and began crying. This kept up for 2 weeks. During one study session, the man turned his head and focused one eye on a scientist for the first time in the study. Even though he was believed to be blind, he said, "I have spoken with God, and he has abandoned us." Then his vitals stopped, and he dropped dead. SCP Foundation.
The SCP Foundation is an organization with a murky past. The Foundation has numerous doctors, researchers, and agents aiming to understand and catalog anomalous objects. D-class personnel, recruited from death row inmates, are used for human testing in almost every aspect. The Foundation collects and protects the SCPs from getting into the hands of others. SCP-173 was the first SCP object written and served as the inspiration for the project. It's described to be a statue-like entity that cannot move while in direct eyesight, but will kill its victim by breaking the neck if not constantly observed. Other SCPs include SCP-682, which is a sentient, indestructible, highly adaptive reptilian creature, accompanied by a picture dating back to a news article in 2006, is one of the most popular SCPs on the wiki.
The Holders. The Holders is a series of creepypastas accounting for the possible ways of gathering different sets of magic items up to 538 that would supposedly curse its former owner forever and bring a dark, unspeakable fate to the world once put together. Nobody really knows if these objects are real, or if there are indeed a set number of objects that exist in our world that yearn for a reunion with their kin. Speculation runs rampant. Part of what makes the Holder stories so enticing is the possibility any person can go into a special institution, ask to visit a Holder, and be forced to undergo a test of power to earn an object. The people who have to take part in the recovering adventure are all called the Seekers. These Seekers have set out for 3 main reasons: to seek for power, to seek for reunion, or to seek for separation. Their goals are known to mutate and change them into villains and monsters, but we can only hope that one with a just heart prevails over these foes. SuicideMouse.avi. Suicide Mouse is a Lost Episode creepypasta and is widely seen as the forefather of the entire Lost Episode genre. This story is based off of an old, unseen Mickey Mouse episode. The video starts off with a saddened Mickey Mouse walking down a never-ending street, while random piano keys are heard playing in the background. After some minutes of him walking, however, the video starts to become corrupted, with the keyboard replaced with static. The video blacks out for a whole 4 minutes, while a low gurgling sound becoming more and more audible. The sound of a horrific female scream starts playing, along with the famous mouse smirking. The building and sidewalks start warping and distorting in different directions, with the distorted screaming lasting a full 8 minutes before abruptly cutting off. A fragmented scene is shown with a strange face, and a man is heard saying, "Real suffering is not known," followed by a gunshot. Mickey Mouse's face is shown to supposedly signify the end of the video, with what sounds like a broken music box playing in the background. Legend has it that the first person to have watched the full video committed suicide shortly afterwards for unknown reasons. The Rake. The Rake is a creepypasta story featuring a humanoid creature that stalks and attacks people in a manner similar to the Slender Man. The Rake is a weird creature who is said to stalk people in ordinary areas like gardens and trees, but he will never attack unless provoked, but will stare and follow you around. Its facial features are somewhat similar to the infamous Slender Man, with reported 2 large eyes and a small mouth which expands to 5 times its size when provoked and attacking, revealing an army of small but sharp, bludgeoning teeth that has no escape, with no chance of ever getting out alive.